Welcome, everyone. This is Polly Niels, and you're listening to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the leads within LOTRO and here at LOTRO Players. And this week we have with us Krister
Yoo-hoo!
and Cinders.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. And this week we have no real news, so things have been busy at Standing Stone Games this week. They had an extra long maintenance this week in order to work on a few items. But they did say that they are still expecting to have update 38.1 come out next week, where they are going to have several new things. First off, they are expecting to have the Umbar missions available.
Hooray!
Yes, we can finally have some missions that we can do related to Umbar, and maybe we could use them to work on some of those Slayer deeds without having
helpful.
without trying to look all over Umbar for worms, because for some reason not all the worms in Umbar count as worms in Umbar. Go figure.
Nobody likes me. Everybody hates me. Going to a bar to eat worms.
Oh boy. And we'll have the final preparations for the Yule Festival, so that the Yule Festival will be ready to start next week if all goes well. With the Yule Festival, we'll have the return of the Yule Hobbit gifts in there, so they'll be doing some tweaks in that department. And one of the tweaks they said is that they're moving dwarf candles from the Hobbit presents into the festival vendors. So yes, if you want to get your dwarf candles, you have to go to a festival vendor once the patch goes live.
Can't complain about that because I will be happy to not have them dropping into my bags.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I shared with you guys my frustration at clearing my bags out and then opening up a Hobbit gift and having it fill the empty spaces I just emptied with candles. I was like, oh joy! I'm so delighted. These candles have really brought a bright spark. Well, one did bring a shaft of light into my life, technically, I guess. Many times. Every time I activated one, a shaft of light.
Yes, yes. It only does it in the most literal sense of the word. Yes. And Treebeard will be opening up and going towards Helm's Deep, so another advancement in their slow progress towards level cap. And the Umbar allegiances are going to head up to level 30 max, because currently they're at level 10 max. And so the allegiances now will be able to go up to level 20. And they expect to have the Forester event fixed so that they could finally open it up. Now, they're not planning on opening up the Forester event next week, but the week after that. And we hope that everything goes well this time.
Mm-hmm. I'll believe it when I see it.
You'll believe it when you see it. Yes, I can understand that, considering I forgot what this would be, take 4 or what?
I know. But okay, so that being said, they obviously are trying to get it right. So you gotta, I guess you have to understand that, but it is kind of funny that it's like, all right, we're gonna release on the, oh, never mind. Okay, I swear to Sauron, we're gonna release on, oh no, okay.
Yeah, things keep on going wrong with that event, so they'll need to hope that this time it all goes well and that they will be able to have everybody like the event, everything go pretty, and that they'll be ready so they could start working on other crafting events. But first, they want this one to be working right before they go into any of the other crafts. And that's pretty much it for the news this week. It's just that this is what we're expecting to have at 38.1. Now, of course, things are subject to change, and these aren't the full release notes or anything like that. We will go into those next week, assuming the patch did go live. Now, let's go into the store sales. And Cinders, what's on sale this week?
So this store sale is really awesome because you get to determine your own discount. So you can save up to 30% now through December 7th. So the way that it works, you can get 15% off any 5 items with the code SAVE15, 20% off any 3 items with the code SAVE20, or 30% off any 1 item with the code SAVE30. So if there's something important you've been saving up for, whether it's a Valar or those 5-minute cooldowns, great time to get them in a way that works for you. You can also stand out from the crowd, get 30% off your select shared wardrobe, select cosmetic outfit slots, mounted combat trait specs, and select cosmetics, also through December 7th.
And just remember that the determine your own discount is not cumulative with the regular sales. So since the regular sales this week are 30%, there is no reason to attempt to use your 130-cent code with anything that's on sale this week, because it's just, well, wasting your 30% code. Now, if you want to use the code, you first activate your code, and then when you select your item that you want to get, then there will be a checkbox to check and say for the discount, because that means you have this code pending. You put on the checkbox to say, yes, I want this, the coupon that I entered the code for to apply to this thing, and then you'll have a discounted price on the item. And then you just buy it, and voila.
Excellent points. Thank you, Pineleaf. And your free weekly coupon is a free elixir of heroism. Coupon code is heroism, HEROISM, now through December 7th as well. Back to you, Pine.
All right. Then let's go and remember back a little bit more, where this time we're going to talk about our favorite and least favorite locations in the game. So either you have a favorite location?
Okay, so one of my favorite moments ever.
No, locations, not moments.
Yeah, but the moment leads to a location. So let me
okay.
Finish.
Okay.
So in the Troll Shaws, adventuring around for the first time, and stumbled upon the 3 trolls, and that was a magical moment for me. So I have always liked that place quite a bit, because I felt like that was the first kind of strong connection you had with, oh my god, that happened in the books. I know these guys. I know these trolls. So that was really cool. And my least favorite place is was it Melonhead? The Fields of Melonhead? Because every time I have a new character, I forget about those stupid guardians, and I'm riding around that swamp, or that what is it? Not cesspools, I guess, but like mineral pools, and then you just ride across that invisible line and drop dead. The best one ever was, we were adventuring there, the whole group of us. So there's like 12 people on mounts riding through that zone, and as we're riding through, something's bothering me, and I can't quite bring it to awareness. And then finally I go, oh wait, oh gosh darn it, did this character do that? And right when it's like, do the quest, I dropped dead right there. So there we go. That's my favorite and least favorite place.
That's that place. It's in Ingmar, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I know that place. I've died in that place.
It has given me much pain and suffering, that specific locations.
I can imagine. Well, Cinders?
So I don't really have like a specific favorite or a specific least favorite. It tends to be kind of categorical. So when it's dark, or if the area is like constantly dark, so Moria, Mordor, Gundabad, those places are really, really hard for me to get through. Is it Minas Tirith before battle? That area too, because it's so dark. Those ones they're really, really difficult for me to get through. So it's not so much that I don't like the story or that I think the locations aren't cool because they've got great graphics. They're just very, very difficult for me. So basically for me, if it's light and bright and cheerful, I'm good. If it's dark and dreary and yeah, it's much more difficult for me to get through. So I don't like to spend lots of time there. I like to balance it and kind of go back and forth between spend a little time mining with the dwarves, spend a lot of time in the sunshine with the hobbits. How about you, Pine?
So that must mean that you like the new King's Gondor more than the old
Yes.
Gondor?
King's Gondor, I really enjoyed the little bit of time we spent there. I keep hoping, I'm like, okay, so if this is how it's going to work. If Krister isn't like, hey, we want company, I'm going to be like, hey, Pine, we're going back to King's Gondor.
To finish all those quests that
to finish all the quests and the deeds that we missed.
Well, after we get Umbar completionist, right?
Right?
Yes.
So, anyhow, yes, I've been enjoying the new King's Gondor a lot better. And Farouk Sahar wasn't too bad to be in, especially because you kind of pop in and out of it. You don't just spend hours and days in there with content, so.
Right. And it's an actual active dwarf area that is full of brightness rather than a one that's been controlled by enemies for the last 1,000 years.
Yeah, it's not all icky and grody and bleh feeling. You know. How about you, Pinely?
Chris has been working on his apartment, okay? It doesn't look like that anymore.
Well, I would say that I have a real liking on King's Gondor in general and all that, but I say the Hall of Bernazol, which is the mission hall in Gundabad. I'm saying that because I just seem to have this habit of returning to there over and over and over.
Is this a return that's like you're in cuffs and you're in trouble, or is it just...
No. But anyway, it's a place where I think it's because it's very nice and laid out because you've got all the missions in one place. When you pop in near the mission givers rather than with this long run that you have at the one that's in Elderslade. So I just like that particular mission hall and always go to in there, and at least back when Gundabad was out, that was a favorite place to go to in order to work on things, get mob drops and stuff like that. So I had a really liking on that. I was having trouble thinking. Now, I mean, from RP perspective, maybe. Oh yes, that's right. My house in Gondor, my Gondor house is the other place that I find is a favorite place to go. Maybe because it has what I think is the best fishing hole that I've got right, that's in front of my house is one of the nice spots to go fishing so that you can catch cookable fish. Every else place else I fish, I just don't get good percentages. And that one I at least get a 33% chance of getting a cookable fish, which is the best percentage I've seen on anything. Some other places where I go to, 10%. Yeah, you might, if you're extremely lucky, get something that you could use in a cooking recipe. Ah!
Do you remember? I think you were the one who was fishing with cinders in the Dale lands. And she kept pulling out fish and you kept pulling out garbage. He got so frustrated. He was like, maybe it's your fishing level. Maybe. Then we had to quit.
Yeah, I tried to figure out what's going on here. Yes. In any case, so those are some of my favorite spots. Now, my least favorite spot. I know a lot of dark areas that do give. I mean, there are some places. It's usually the places where you need to go through there in order to get someplace else. And it's infested with mobs that just keep you from doing that comfortably. Now, the one that Cinders keeps on thinking about and bringing up that sort of inspired this particular one is the gut end of in Umbar City, where you have these rats, these gut rats in there they're in. When I say rats, I mean actually they're corsairs, is what they are actually. So they're called with the corsairs. They're called gut rats or gut hawks or gut sneaks or whatever stuff like that. So that's a place. It's right smack in the middle of many things, but it's the worst part of town, and you often get attacked in there. So it's sort of anything where you have this huge number of hostile mobs right smack in the middle of where you need to go constantly. So I would say crossroad mobs is, I guess, what I'm going to call them. In other words, places where you need to go and you have to get through them, but whatever it is they're the most riddled with mob places that you could possibly think of. Those are my least favorite areas.
So like Goblin Town.
Well, Goblin Town you don't have to go through. When I say go through, I don't mean for questing. If you go in there for questing and come back out, then that's fine because you expect to find the mobs in there. But if you had to go through Goblin Town in order to go from one side of the Misties to the other.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so like Paths of the Dead, where nowadays that's fine because
the Paths of the Dead, you do it. Paths of the Dead, you only have to go through that once or twice.
Well, it doesn't matter anyways now, Pintleaf, because about 3 years back they changed it all into malls and timeshares. So the Paths of the Dead is more of a housing community now.
Well, you get the problem is that you get but you have the Forsaken Dead that are still hanging around and they're bringing down property values and all.
Well, that's kind of the draw now, the tourism draw. It's, hey, remember when you used to be really scared of these guys? Now look at him. He just looks dumb. Yeah. Everybody else around you's alive. Nah, 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 nah.
And anyway, Paths of the Dead, I wouldn't consider them to be crossroad mobs because you don't go through the Paths of the Dead all that often. In places where you find yourself going through several times. And the gut, which is... I try to think how many times we enter. If you enter into the gut for a quest or something like that, it's not too bad. It's that when I'm trying to get to a place that's on the other side of the gut where there's a problem, right?
Yes, and if you stay on the main path, it's not actually that big of an issue. If you're running around with me and I'm looking into all of the nooks and crannies, then it becomes problematic. And poor Pintleaf has spent the last 2 weeks getting drugged through that place repeatedly. We even did it earlier today for like no good reason. I just like rode in there and was like, oh wait, I didn't need to go in there. And Pintleaf was like, no.
We finished all the city quests. Right?
I was like, sorry, I forgot where that inn was. There's only like 20 of them.
Anyway, so those are favorite and least favorite areas. I wonder if anyone listening in had any. Hello, Mary Rose. Any favorite or least favorite places for you? Well, Mary Rose thinks on that. We could go into our new player question. That has to do with virtues and trait points. How would one pick and choose?
I feel like that's just entirely dependent on what your goals are, because for me, for Krister being a tank, I was heavy on the everything that would give me morale or mitigations. And so just orienting on that. Although you get to a point where you have enough virtue points where you can prepare yourself for a couple different things. You know what I mean?
A couple of different things?
Well, like being a tank, having tanky things and having DPS-y like things. Now, of course, I know I'm a captain talking about DPS, so I might as well just be laughed at.
Yes.
And it was particularly embarrassing last night when we were actually where Krister's usually not in a position where he's really doing any damage at all. He's just he's tanking, he's taking things on. And so last night, Krister had to actually do some DPS. And that was when I realized, I remember there was a time when I was like, oh, wow, they really improved the DPS on the captains. And last night was like, oh, they must have figured out that was a mistake and reset it. Because I just feel like I'm just doing a fan dance around all my enemies. I'm not really hurting them. I might actually just be entertaining them more than anything else. But then, luckily, I had, of course, I'm still not to 150 yet, but I had a bunch of 150s escorting me there. So every once in a while, a hunter's arrow would fly out and change my fortune instantly. Oh, I've got this guy down to half health. It's only taken me 10 minutes. Flunk, arrow, done.
Yeah, see, we had similar issues last night because they put the guardian, the captain, and a hunter in one group, and we never finished a wave of mobs before the next wave had started. And Pyleaf was like, "What? You're still fighting?" We were like, "Yes." No DPS over here to speak of except the hunter.
Yeah, so what I found myself doing is I would kill most of the mobs on the side I was on, then run to the other side to add some DPS on their side so that they could, I hope, finish things a little bit on a more timely fashion.
Okay, but you know what? That kind of is reminiscent, like the Seven Samurai. The final battle there. They were running from one end of the town to the other. So that's that's a realistic aspect of it, right? So.
So, anyway, Mary Rose Morningstar did answer, and she said that she loves King's Gondor. All right,
hates Nairband.
Ooh, yeah.
Yep.
Who doesn't hate Nairband?
Ugh.
Masochists would be like, yes!
People who hate themselves, they love it.
Yeah, Nairband. That's a real nasty place. Yes. All right, so okay, Cinder, do you have anything concerning picking virtues or trait points?
So this was actually one of my questions because it's something that's kind of percolated. So with M, how I had leveled her, a lot of like the deeding and stuff that we're doing really is to get her virtues to a point that they're actually working well for her. And then to figure out, like, does she have all of her trait points? Is she missing trait points? All those kinds of things, and trying to make sure that she has what she needs. I was looking through the Ploy's Discord chat and saw that there were new stats out for like level 150 raid readiness, and I was like, oh man, I need to really look at this because I know like virtue and traits can play into how those numbers come out, and thinking, oh, how do you pick?
I want you to prepare to be disappointed too, Cinders, because that was the topic of discussion last night. People are like, I've reviewed those requirements. How am I going to achieve this?
Well, the idea is to just get close.
It's pretty intimidating. Yeah, but the bottom line is that regardless of what they're telling you your stat needs to be at to be functional, they at least tell you the best things for you to do for your character. Regardless. So they are good in that sense. But it was just so funny hearing people were just despairing about like, how does somebody get that stat that high? What is it?
Yeah, well,
my mitigations need to be what?
So, and one of the things that I'm looking at that too is like, okay, where does crafted gear play into this? Where do all of these things kind of factor in, and where can you tweak, and what can you do to really?
Yeah, I agree with you. I'd love to see crafted gear become more prominent, or something that could compete with maybe even raid gear, or another option to help you fully explore different ways to tweak your character. Too.
So what Pineleaf and I have found just this last week is that at least for the jewelry part right now, because that's the crafter that I have up high enough, if you can get it critted, it's actually better than the gear that you can pick up off landscape. And so I've made one piece of jewelry for Pineleaf and 2 pieces for M, because those red sea stones are hard to come by. But we were able to, with the slotting, even with the humble seafarers essences, to get better stats from it than we were from the stuff that we'd picked up off landscape.
Yeah, okay, because that would identify the progression to me. Is the basic stuff where you're not interested is landscape. The stuff where you want to get rating, but you're not there at all, not yet there yet, that should be where you get the crafted gear. And then you slowly are replacing your crafted gear with the raid gear that you accumulate as you raid.
Yeah. So I'm working on my metalsmith now so that I can make the heavy armor for myself and my shields. And so I just haven't gotten quite that far yet. I need to go Kalinard Skarn gathering because that's apparently the only kind I don't have.
Isn't it hilarious where you're progressing through that and you're like, oh my goodness, if only I had a level 15 character, I could just run around and have him pick up all this stuff for me. But you mean I have to go to that zone and collect it myself?
Well, I actually don't mind it on M, but I also think that I'm going to hop on my old metalsmith who wasn't able to go pick up stuff because I know I mailed stuff to her. Because I love those crafting carryalls. Those things are so amazing. I'm just going to have her mail the crafting carryalls back to M so that M can use them to get hers up. Because I know that's what I did.
I didn't even know you could. I guess I just missed that. I didn't even think about mailing the carryalls. Can you do that with all the carryalls, or
if you're my understanding? I haven't tried it with any but the crafting ones. But even if you can't mail them, like you can put them in your vault and then pull them out.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I've been doing. I just didn't even think about the mailing.
I think I've mailed them, but I don't know if I have.
Okay,
I think I have. Because my vault space is always full.
Now, these 150 stat goals, I noticed there seems to be stats for every stat in here except morale, so they don't have goals for morale?
Probably not. Everybody's mad at morale. I'm mad at morale.
Okay.
I'm mad that they have percentage-based morale damage, because I find that to be ridiculous. It's like, wait a second. If I'm to understand this correctly, the stronger, tougher, and more powerful I am, the weaker I am, and the more damage I take. That just doesn't... I even say that out loud, and it doesn't make any sense.
Well, you have more morale...
There's a more surface area, maybe, to hit? Or
yeah. Oh,
you can hit the broadside of a Krister.
One of the other really fun things that I found out, like with how I had spent my trait points yesterday, so I had a skill that I found out two things. One, the Bastion of Light skill that they gave to the Guardians. People who don't play Guardians or play frequently with Guardians don't know what that skill does or what it looks like. And so we were in the middle of our Friday night fights, and one of the guys goes, "Is that a Mariner box? That big white box? Pine, did you do that?" And I was like, "No, it's just me being a little ray of light." And it is so effective, and it's so much fun because you like turn into this, like minis can make like a big old streak of light down, but you become the light briefly. Like it comes down through you and out, and it's great. But also, there's another skill in there that is like a toggle skill, which I had known about the shield wall one, where you can pick just one person and put the shield wall on them. And that's gotten me killed a few times because it takes all their damage. But this particular skill, it like reduces the incoming damage to anybody who's around me and who's an ally around me. And I can just toggle it on, and it stays on in or out of combat. So once I click it, I don't have to think about it again. Unless I die.
Unless you die.
Yes. So that was really fun to find. Because I was just like, waiting for Friday Night Fights to start. I was like, oh, what don't I have on my bars? What does this skill do? So.
I should have had this on my bar the entire time.
Yeah. Well, it was so much more convenient. Because when we got into the Friday Night Fights, I was like, okay, I can't really put the shield wall on my healer, because the captain and the bear, like, I'm not going to put a shield wall on them. They're melee like I am. I'm just going to get more damage. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll try this skill and see what happens. Sure enough, I didn't die from their damage, which was nice. And I think out of the entire thing, we only had 2 deaths out of the entire, 2 hours we played. only like 2 or 3 deaths. And so that was pretty good. I was like, sweet, this skill is awesome. I don't know if it was really me, but I'm going to say it was.
Okay. Then all I have to add on that concerning trait points is that I really can't think of too much that I do relating to virtues, because what I do with them is simply, all right, what character am I doing? Let's try to do a little bit more damage and a little bit defense in there, and I think all my characters I use wit. If I'm on my warden, I tend to add a little bit more on the defensive side, and on my mariner, I think it's all offensive. So I'm not too sure what you're looking for here in flexing on what to do with the virtues. Now, I do have on my mariner, on my runekeeper, for example, I do know I'm at 90, I think, on all 5 of them. So now I'm just saying, okay, now I guess I just need to put my virtue points into a virtue where I get its passive effect. So I think I'm right now probably putting into something that is giving me a little bit more tactical mastery, so that I could do more damage.
Okay.
Because now I know if you're a Krister where you're going in and out 2 different lines, you have to decide, are you going to go to a place where you are going to switch over some of your virtues, so that if you are tanking, you go into one virtue set, and if you're DPS, you go into another virtue set. I usually don't do that, probably because I would always forget to change it.
Yeah, that would be my problem too.
Yeah, so because if you could really remember it, and if you could maintain 7 of them, because right now I can keep 5 at peak, but all the rest of my virtues are at relatively low levels, so
That makes sense.
Well, and right, and inadvertently, since Krister has basically wandered everywhere multiple times and done everything without any direction with the deeds, he's got a lot of his stuff is pretty high, but it needs to be, I need to go that little extra to get it sorted. But that's what's nice about it, I guess, is that's kind of the spit polish on your character too. That's. You've got your gear sorted, you're ready to raid, and now you're fine tuning them with those virtues.
Right. Now, there's also a question here about traits. I mean, it sounds like to me that the greatest choice that you have to make on that is what your specialization is going to be, because you're going to eventually have enough skill points to completely fill out one of those trees, whichever your specialization is. And unless you're one of those rare people who says, well, I want the specialty only items from this line, but I want most of the skills on this other line. I know some people do things like that, have a very, very big mix on the two. But I guess that's the first question. Krister, are you solidly in one line, or do you sort of split it up?
I'm almost all, but I have specific goals as well. So like with Yellow Line and Captain, I'm mainly raid tanking. That's mainly my raid. So my companion, I don't need to buff my companion in any way, shape, or form at that point. So I typically ignore that stuff to free up the trade points. But my thoughts about that were, because I know everybody was frustrated when we first moved to trade points, because we felt it was more inflexible than the system we had before. Because before I had kind of a mix of yellow and blue for my tank. And so what I found, though, is that now we've gotten high enough level, and now we've gotten enough points where you almost can duplicate the build you had pre-trade points. You can almost get there. And so the question is, once we have enough trade points, can we just fully get there? And was that the intent? Is now that you can mix, but you're going to be very. But yeah, definitely mix, because the one thing before they changed it, the one thing you always wanted to do if you were a raid captain, regardless of what line you were in, you always wanted to trade into blue and unlock the full potential of your res. Because having a 2-person in combat res was absolutely invaluable. So that was what I would always do, regardless of if I was running red, blue, or yellow as my main. I would always be traded into blue to have that res. But now it doesn't matter because they took it away. But I'm not bitter.
Of course you're not bitter.
Well, what I hated when you were reading all those notes, too, it was like, oh, gosh, that really stinks, but I can't argue with the logic of that. I understand why you're doing it. Yes, okay. I can see your point. I just don't like it.
You don't like it? Oh, well. All right, so it also is, what do you look for or prioritize? I guess that's pretty much what you just answered with your last.
Oh yeah,
there. You
survivability and resing as much people as I can. That is my
as many people as you can. Right. It helps that you specialize pretty much in one class, right?
That's it. I mean, the captain. I have 97% of my game time at LOTRO has been playing my captain. So yeah, I've specialized. I know the captain inside and out, and so that's helped me understand how to fine tune my virtues and know what I want in operation. Now, but of course, that's kind of up in the air now, just because of the changes that have happened. That's why I'm kind of looking forward. We had actually a decent amount of people on last night. So if we can start raiding again, that's where you can really start to feel out and get used to, okay, what are my limitations now? What has changed? What do I need to address now? Because I think I really do need to do a review of my virtues and see if I really need to have them set the way I do. And the good news for Krister in that is that since I played Krister almost exclusively, he was the one deeding everywhere and doing all the deeds, getting all the deeds. And so he's got a ton of virtues that are high up and wouldn't take much work to max. And so if I have to shift, that's what I'm thankful for, is Krister's going to be the easiest tune I've got to shift with. And if I need to identify moving that, I might have already maxed those virtues out as well. Part of being employee is just helping other people with their deeds, their goals, and so inevitably you're completing things yourself as you move through it. But yeah, I think I the trade system was frustrating at first, but then I really like it. I really like the virtue system too. But both of them feel like you find more importance in them as you get higher level, and then as you start rating. That's where these things can become critically important.
All right. Anything else someone wants to add before we head on to our weekend gaming? Very well then, Krister, what were you doing last week?
Well, I'm a big boy, and I showed that by buying the expansion finally. So I have had the expansion. the Friday night, a couple weeks ago, where I had to admit that I had not bought the expansion. I got a lot of grief for that. But I've got the expansion now, and the last 2 Fridays, the kid's been helping me run through the main storyline quest, and last night we completed it. So I've completed the main storyline, and
you've gotten the entire storyline all the way up to.
Oh no! I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. I'm totally not through the storyline at all. I'm sorry. You're absolutely right. Because I think we're on 3.0. Oh boy, 3.3. I want to say that we stopped at, and because there's like 7, it's like 7.2 if I'm not mistaken, right? 7.2, 7.1, 7.
Yeah. 7.2 is about where.
Yeah, so we got through. What I should have said was we got through and made a decent part of the main quest. So
okay.
But yeah, it's been really cool seeing seeing all the different places after the war. And Tarling's crown was kind of crazy because it's just so except for the one place where they all still are at. It's a relatively peaceful, kind of happy place now.
Yes, it's certainly not what it was last time. Yes.
No, well, when that first opened, one of the craziest things we ever had was we had like a raid. We were doing like the dailies, I think, or the quests in Tarling's Crown, and they had some kind of right at the beginning there was a bug where once you killed a wave of ads, another wave would spawn right away, and so we had like this 30-minute fight because it was about 10 minutes into the fight, people were like, "Why are we getting so many waves? What's going on?" And it was just wave after wave after wave of mobs, and it was one of the funner things that we've ever done. So it was fun to reminisce about that as we were traveling through Tarling's Crown last night. And to my unbelievable delight, I was in zones where I could finally use my trample again. I trampled everything. I trampled all.
You trampled all.
And then a couple of my friends bought the game Raft and invited me to play on it, and that's been pretty interesting. I would equate it to our Minecraft server. It's one of the crafting survival games, so that's been quite a bunch of fun. And then last night was hysterical because we had Glory. She had a Valard character, and it brought back one of my favorite things about Valars. Is the last thing that you want anybody around you, especially people you don't know, to know, is that you're a Valard character. You just don't want it. You just want them to be impressed with your title. Not ask any questions, but you can't do anything about your horse leveling. And so once your horse levels and the ponies dance around you, that's when everybody realizes, hey, wait a second, you're level 140. Why would your horse be leveling right now? Shouldn't your horse have leveled a long time ago? Wait a sec, are you some kind of imposter? Did you Valar yourself to get here? So I think that you should be able to buy horse rep so you don't have to go through the embarrassing horse grats process while you're leveling your newly Valar character up. So, and then other than the Raft, I've been playing Galactic Civilization 4 and just reloaded Total War Warhammer 2. Because that's a pretty fun game too. So just a nice week, a week of returning to some kind of normalcy after months of weirdness. So I had a good week, and I'm looking forward to having many more. Cinders, what did you get up to?
So, as we talked about a little bit earlier in the show, I have spent a lot of time with Pine Leaf. So we got all the way through the storyline before the show last week, and so this week we've spent kind of going back and doing the deeds in the Shield Isles and the Cape of Umbar, and in the city of Umbar. And in the process of doing that, we discovered that we had left behind some members of our crew. And so we did the quest for them, because we had decided, so Pine Leaf had not taken everybody in the crew. And I was like, well, what happens if we do take everybody? So we took everybody, like every possible person we could take, right? And we got there, and one of the characters, like the NPCs, are like, oh, they fell overboard, they're lost at sea, right? So I'm like, okay, they're lost at sea, whatever. Come to find out, they were not lost at sea, and had quests for us to do. So we did those, and then did Friday Night Fights again for the second time in a very, very long time. Got some redemption in Storm on Methedras, and we did some other instances, including one of the newest ones that I had never done before. And that was when we discovered that putting a captain and a guardian together and expecting DPS to happen is really not the greatest plan.
Yeah, we didn't split the party very well when we went to North and South Gate and all.
Well, and so like we had two hunters, so the hunters split, right? And then we had, I think we had two hunters, and so they split, and then the mariner went one way, and the bear went the other way, and then we had the captain and the guardian, and it was like, we're not going anywhere very fast. Like, it's just not happening. We were both alive and well, but things were not dying. And then we did some more deeding through the Shield Isles and the Cape of Umbar, And Pineleaf is pretty sure that this is the first time he's ever found all of the treasures in any of the areas. But I was like, hey, let's look over here. What happens if we go over here? And he was like, you do have a knack for finding them.
Yes, she certainly did.
So we did find all of them, but we did have to get out the map for the last few of them.
Yeah.
And there were a couple, especially in the Cape of Umbar, that we would not have found without the coordinates because they were in an area that we're like, that's part of the map still? Can we get out there? And I was like, surely, let's try it. And we could, but we had tried to get to a different point in the map earlier today and had gotten like an insta-death because they clearly did not want us to go adventuring there.
But the place you were trying to swim to...
Oh, is that where those elven hunters...
Because didn't we eventually get to the point you were trying to swim to?
No. So there's a section of the map that looks like you should be able to get to it. But you can't from either side. It's like a strip of sandy beach, and then you can... I was like, well, let's see if we can swim around the rocks, because we managed to swim all the way around the city of Umbar, of all things.
Right.
And so, like, we tried it, and I was in front, and I got insta-dead, and I was like, Pineleaf, don't follow me, I just insta-died. And he's like, okay, and it put me clear over on the other side of the map for the res circle. So, yay, 5-minute ports. So I ported back, and then I was like, okay, so clearly we're not supposed to get to that little section of beach. And so I was like, okay, so we probably just can't get to that section of beach at all. And I didn't realize there's like a third section of beach further down that you can get to, and there are actually like 2 locations on it that you're supposed to find. So, so we did that, but then there's like a rock wall again, and you can't get past the rock wall to get in there, because I was like, how are they hiding 20 treasure caches on this place? Like, there's only so many nooks and crannies you can put them in, and you have a whole section of the map you can't get to. So, I decided to quit fighting the devs and be like, whatever, I'll quit trying to go where I'm not supposed to. I get the message. And then we got the map out and found the last few that we needed. But, yeah. It was a lot of, hey, let's check here. Let's check here. Have we been here? And Pineleaf's going, haven't we been there already? So, he's been very patient. I've had fun exploring, and he's survived. His character hasn't died. My guardian's done her job. She's died, but he's been fine. Although most of her deaths have been from jumping off of places and going, "Oh, don't follow me!"
Yes, she hasn't learned yet that before jumping off of a cliff, you first ask, "Oh, could you please have you refreshed Do Not Fall yet?"
Oh, yeah.
I just assume I'm not going to die. I'm like, it'll be crunchy. What's the worst that can... Oh, don't follow me, Pineleaf. It's a bad idea. What, you died? Yes. Would you like to work on your Residine when you get down to me?
Yeah, I like that moment when you've just... It's too late to do anything, and you're like, uh-oh.
Yes. I'm pretty sure that's why Pineleaf follows me instead of going in front of me 99% of the time. That might also be because, hey, I'll follow you, and then I totally don't follow him. So, what can I say? When there's Skarn, M goes. So.
Where there's Skarn, M goes, okay.
Yes. And not always in the wisest of ways. How about you, Pineleaf? How was your week?
All right. I'll begin with my high-level mariner, who simply ran several skirmishes because I'm working on my quest to get Skirmisher Middle-earth on that character. I've got, I think, about 5 more encounters to complete it. We have certain ones that are just stubborn on not coming out. You know how some of those some of those encounter mobs, they just don't want to show their face for some reason. So I'm continuing on that quest. Thus, I joined Friday Night Fights, and I also did some skirmishes with Emeraldina to try to get more of those in there, and I think I'm down to 6 now is my current estimate on the matter. So maybe next week I can be able to finally finish it. We'll just have to find out. Then my warden reached Dol Amroth Renewed. So I'm continuing along on that quest. So that's my slow progression through the new area where I'm recording it. So I'm making progress through there. It means I'm getting near finishing Western King's Condor, so maybe in a couple of weeks I'll be done with that finally and be able to head on into Outer Gondor. We'll have to see. And then my low-level mariner reached the Glassblowers camp in Dwalling. So making progress there. I'm sort of making slow progress towards Tinadir because I'm level 30, 31, somewhere in that range right now, and I want to be able to get to Tinadir to do my level 30 class quest. But I don't want to rush there because I know that part of the Mariner class quest sends you to Rantost, and I certainly don't feel like killing mobs in Rantost when I'm level 30 because I did that before with my first Mariner, and I think the mobs there are something like 36, 37. So, yeah, a non-trivial task in order to kill the mobs there. So I'm hoping that maybe I'll be a reasonable level by the time into there. Maybe that, and there's a possibility they might make some tweaks to the quest maybe by the time I get there. We'll have to see. But anyway, that's what I was up to in gaming this week. If you would like to join this illustrious raid of players that help support us on Patreon, you could help us by going to the donations page. You can support the Players Alliance on Patreon. Your money will be used for our podcast hosting, website hosting, and to pay for our live shows. If you'd like to send an email, you can send it to podcast@loachplayers.com. The Players Alliance has 2 shows on Saturdays at 8:30 p.m. US Eastern Time. We record Loach Players News and we record DDO Players News when Drac is available. You guys join us for our shows at loachplayers.com/live. And that's all for tonight then. This is Pilot Needles reminding you to skirmish responsibly.